Welcome to Good Service. Folks, welcome back to Good Service. We are your hosts, Ben.
And Kevin.
And we have a very special homie and a brother. We got Shane O in the pod. We're very excited to have you, Shane. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the drive. You drove out from OC on a Friday, man. That's real love. That's real
sure
love.
It is.
Appreciate it. Drive was okay?
It was great. Got here early, avoided some traffic, and
Nice.
Yeah, I was excited to be here.
Good. Well, as you guys can already see, we have a nice little spread in front of us. This is from Saladang. I'm sure it's Saladang, not Saladang.
Oh, really? Okay,
I don't
yes,
know.
there it is.
Maybe it's Saladang. If it's Saladang, yes, Saladang, but I think Saladang. It's Thai food. We don't want the food to get cold, so we're just going to jump into it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start talking.
All right, let's start serving up the food first, and then we'll just jump into a
What did you order,
pocket.
Kev?
Okay, so I kind of went full spread today for the menu as we eat and talk. We have here the pineapple fried rice.
Ooh, you gotta
which
have
is a
the
staple
pineapple,
at
yes.
many Thai places. We got the crying tiger, which is a staple beef dish at a
heard
lot
of
of
that.
Thai spots.
Okay.
We have something a little unique to this place. It's called stuffed chicken. I'm not sure if the camera could capture all of this, but it's literally stuffed chicken, and I don't know what it's stuffed with, so it's going to be very surprising.
Stuffed with stuff.
I'm like, sweet, okay, cool. And then another mystery item. I love ordering things I've never seen before. These things are called like golden pouches, but what's scary is I don't know what's in the pouch, so that'll be fun.
I'm
We're gonna put that away.
I'm sure it's golden.
And then we got some fried bananas. We got the mango sticky rice. Everybody loves
Nice.
mango sticky
Yeah,
rice.
yeah.
This one I'll leave closed so we can eat that a little bit
that's for
later. And then we got the green curry.
Green curry chicken.
So let me talk about that real quick. Most people, they've had the Japanese curry. I think that's one that's really popular. Brown curry. They've had like the red curry from Indian food. That one's really popular. But I don't know if people know about green curry at Thai spots. It's one of the better curries I've ever had is green curry.
Okay, I don't know if I can taste the difference between yellow, green, and red curry, and because they have all three of those colors.
They do.
At Thai.
They do.
And every time I eat either one of them, I taste kind of the same as the other ones. Am I wrong?
There's so with green curry, there's this spice level that's a little unique. It goes really spicy if it needs to.
Okay, so I like that.
And then it also has this I think it's like more of like a coconutty flavor. It's like a nuttier flavor than a yellow curry or a red curry.
I'm gonna have to do a curry challenge.
Yeah.
Get all three of them and then just like back to back it.
Yeah. So we're gonna go family style today. So we're just gonna use
Yes, I
our
love
plates and we're gonna
family
start
style. All right,
serving.
cool.
But as we start doing that, why don't we start getting on? Hold on. Why don't I start serving?
Okay.
it?
And then we just start talking.
Let's just start talking.
All right,
Let's go.
cool. Well, what's up, Shane? We need to give proper intros. Can you give us a little bit of a background, kind of where you grew up and all that, what you do for a living, whatever you want to give us, whatever you want to give us.
All right, let's go. So childhood-wise, I first of all, I'm very honored to be here. I've listened to a lot of the podcasts, and it's interesting with a lot of the previous guests. It starts with family, city, where we talk about events and things of that nature. And a funny thing is, this past month in our small group, the question came up of, if there was something in your childhood that you would change, would you change it? And so all these things came up, and
That's
when
deep.
it got deep.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, when it got to me, I was talking about I wouldn't change much.
Wow.
I had a really unique childhood, and it all adds up to why I'm a survivor today, right? And so kind of going into the details, you talked a little bit before, but when I was 4, I don't know, as a Korean American, I don't know how I got started in this, but I played ice hockey.
What?
Yeah, I played ice hockey, which was totally off the rails. And
Where were you born?
I was born at Cedars, so I was born in LA.
Oh, you're born in LA.
I was
Okay,
born
cool.
in LA. I
Wow.
wasn't born in Canada or anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
I was like,
no need to date myself or anything like that. I don't really care. But Brea Mall used to have an ice rink.
did not know that.
Wow. So if you're in the food court, that's where the ice rink used to be, right? So I started playing ice hockey there, and then I did the traditional Korean stuff. I played golf and I played violin. And so in my childhood, I was busy. It was 3 times on the ice a week. I was practicing violin and getting lessons twice a week. And golf was fun though. Golf was one of those things of like, my parents loved it. And so when they would go, I would go. And
so wait, you thought golf was fun, but so you didn't enjoy ice hockey and
I loved all of that.
Okay,
the
so
unique thing is
cool.
And a lot of Koreans, when they talk about their childhood, talk about piano, they talk about violin, and sometimes it's negative. Like my parents, like the Tiger Mom would come out or something like that. But the unique thing is like, my mom would always tell me that I would always say, damn, getting distracted.
Hey, feel free to take a bite.
Because the food, just for context, I just threw a beautiful plate in front of him, and he just blinked out. That was awesome.
So
completely
it's a wrap.
Derailed his whole
That's my podcast. I'm good.
We're just gonna eat.
He doesn't want to share anymore because he wants to eat.
I had a great childhood. I'm gonna eat.
Hey, take a bite though, man.
I'll dig in.
Keep going.
Violin, hockey, golf. Like my mom would always say, like I would always come up and say, wow, this is easy. So it was one of those things, like I loved doing all of these things, and whenever I didn't enjoy something, she immediately stopped. So for instance,
that's cool.
She
didn't force you to do anything.
She didn't force me to do any of that stuff.
That's very unique, actually.
That is.
It was cool.
Yeah.
And it got to where I had to stop was during the summertime when camps would kick in, clinics, all these different things from around Canada and the US would come to California. I also played baseball and soccer for another like 3 or 4 years. So in the summertime, it got so busy where like I finally told my mom, like, I think I'm tired. And so this one time I remember it was hockey in the morning from like 7 to 11. And then my soccer coach was like, I really need you. So I would have to go play soccer, not have to, but like I wanted to. So we played games in the afternoon.
Are you getting good grades while doing
so
all
this
this
elementary, I can say confidently I was a good student just in elementary school and junior high. Once high school, we won't talk about grades. But I remember at the tail end of playing soccer, I told my mom, because I had to go back after playing the game in the afternoon, I had to go back to the hockey clinic. So my life was spent a lot of times on the road. And I remember one time coming back, I'm like, Mom, I have a huge migraine. I have a big headache. And I think it's just because I was dehydrated. And so driving back, I was near Disneyland and driving back off the 91 in Harbor, there was like a Holiday Inn. And I remember my mom pulled in and she hustled the maid. My son's not feeling well. Can you just let him in and like take a shower just for him to relax? I'll never forget that. And that was really the first time I felt like I'm tired. And so I went back. I'm like, Mom, no more soccer and baseball for me. So it was really hockey, golf, and violin for like most of my childhood, and I enjoyed all of it. And the unique part of it in learning through what I went through, I asked my mom. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but like when Princess Diana passed away in that tragedy, I asked my mom, like, why are you so affected by this? Because you're staying up to watch the funeral, you're actually tearing up and all of these things. And the one time we had the conversation, she said, like, I wanted to treat you like a royal. Like all the opportunities that they had, I wanted to let you experience everything that I think you would enjoy. When you say no, then we say no. But I as a mom, I wanted to put everything in front of you and go. Looking back at it, it probably took a huge toll on like my parents' marriage, because by the time in high school they separated, my junior year really, and that's kind of when a lot of the activities went away. Right? It's like all of a sudden overnight there was kind of a broken family, so everybody is on their own. My older sister, she's 3 years older than me. She went to college in Santa Cruz, so really right out of high school, I was like, all of a sudden, like overnight, like by myself, right? So all of these activities of things that I'm used to doing, it just
Were you with your mom or your dad
halted.
at the time?
So at that time, I was with my mom. We moved out to Corona when it was just cows. Right. So we were, before it got East Vale and all these Fontana, all these different places developed, it was literally like our little community and like cows. And so we were out there. My dad was out there just for a little bit, and then so he left, and my grandparents were both in, my mom's side was in downtown LA, and my dad's side they were in Garden Grove. And nobody was far away. Everyone was still kind of geographically close, but it was extremely broken. So that's kind of how I grew up. So like childhood, I wouldn't change a thing. And I think because of the nature of my parents, I had to instantly obtain survival mechanisms and abilities. When we were talking about like your dad and like your decision of possibly it could have gone that way or it could have gone this way, I think with my parents, there was that after like they separated, there was probably like 1 or 2 years of, this could have gone. Like it was so pretty at the beginning, like overnight it could have gone like totally like deep end, right? So it only takes one guy, right? And so all of a sudden, senior year, high school, like that era, I was in K-Town, had a 357 pointed at me, like overnight. I'm like, what am I doing? Like overnight, I driving and you're drunk. I had to pull over to the gas station off of Vermont. I'm like, my friend, like, dude, can you drive? I don't know what I'm doing. So all of a sudden, these decisions can go south like really, really fast.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful. What ended up bringing me along was like my love for sports and my love for cars. And the car community back then, early 90s, these tight little JDM squads in Orange County, like that's really the squad that's like, there's a couple of core friends in there that have kind of been, I've been in my corner since, right? So the ability to work on cars, have hobbies, they could still get you in trouble, but really that took me out of like that 2-year gap in K-Town where like it could have gone like really, really bad, like really fast, right? So I don't know if you guys remember like the Chi-Chi's nightclub, the Julianne nightclub, like all that stuff. All that stuff is turned over since, but back then I'm like, how the hell did you let in like a 17-year-old? Right? So
he just wanted money, bro.
That's basically what it is, right?
They just care about the almighty dollar right there.
That's really what
money.
It is.
This food is money. What is that beef thing called again? The
Crying Tiger, man.
That thing's crazy.
Let's
Get in there,
I'm
bro.
going.
Like I know we can keep talking, but man, the food's getting cold.
But that was basically my first chapter of my life up till about high school, college. That's really what it was. I still wouldn't change it for the world, but yeah.
That's interesting because we've all kind of grown up broken in different ways, and the details of that is obviously very different amongst even the guys in this room. But I can resonate with that, right? Because when you talk about like divorce and loss of people, loss of loved ones that have been these major pain points in our life, but then as you let the years of life go by, you see that those pain points actually shaped you and made you stronger to be able to endure more of life as it comes. And then also what you experience is a help to others who experience something similar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that you view it that way.
Yeah, I think when you can dive in and all right, so first of all, men suck at talking, right? Like sharing and going deep. It's always kind of been a knock of you're sensitive or you're soft, right? I think when it comes to, first of all, like divorce, one of the hardest things for me, and still to this day, I think it's been kind of reopened after a few events this past year. Every divorce is its own story where it's like if your parents divorce, it's not the same as like my parents divorcing. When you lose someone in your life, there's no comparing. That's the biggest loss in your life. Like your grieving is different, right? So with my parents, I remember vividly like my dad's side of the family, obviously they would take my dad's side, right? Even though like he's the one that walked out. it was never asked, how do I feel? It's always, come to our parties, come to this, come to sebe, come to all of these things. And the funny thing is they never asked how my dad felt during all these things, right? These are all the newer things that like I've unpacked this past year, where my dad was in the ER and he started letting it out. I'm like, well, where's this coming from? He didn't cry. You just start seeing tears come out, right? I'm like, what? I got kind of excited. I'm like, oh shoot, I got a real opportunity to talk to my dad on like another level now, right? And he just started saying things like, I'm really sorry to your mom. I'm really sorry to you. Like all of these things. And he wasn't checking out. Wow. He's sitting there like kind of reflecting.
Right. That's not common for Korean dads to do anything remotely close to that.
Talking about these things
context, like literally, I mean, men showing emotions is one thing, especially from that generation.
Yeah.
But Asian men shame culture to like express real emotion to their son.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Just
bro.
never. I don't even expect it again. Wow. Right. Like I treasured that moment. And then he's like, I'm really sorry to you. He's like, wow. One of my biggest like things that I struggle with was every year when we would have to do sebe, I'm the only one that's sitting by myself.
You were?
No, my dad. Oh. Right? Because all the families were all going through and having a great time. And my grandparents really did a good job of, Thanksgiving, sebe, Christmas were like next level every year. But that's all our family like really did during the year. It's like, no one's hearing from anybody. And then just during that season, it's kind of off the hook, right?
Yeah, that was kind of how we did it too. We just did Thanksgiving and sebe to gather the entire family, and then throughout the rest of the year, we wouldn't talk or see anybody. Yeah.
So I'm kind of mentioning these things because when I start to talk about like my daughter, these things are kind of coming up again. Right? It's reopening a lot of things. And so I just remember him saying like, that's been my number one struggle is I'm doing sebe by myself. And I just felt so bad. It wasn't I'm blaming you, your sister, or your mom. It's just like...
A traditional context, by the way, sebe is like a New Year's tradition where Koreans bow to elders, and the fun part is you do that in exchange for money.
Yes,
but it's actually that's the fun part. But really, the whole purpose.
As a kid, that's the best.
Yeah, the money is more of like a gift, kind of like traditionally you give gifts down to children, but it's more than just about money. You're actually giving respect and a wish of health to your elders during this bowing time. And so when Shane's here, this is like a little asterisk just to make sure people know.
Yeah, we forgot. Not everyone's Korean who's listening.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
For all our all those multinational listeners, please forgive us.
But yeah, love sebe.
Yeah, sebe was great as a kid with our family. But, I mentioned that because, one of the things that I'm learning to talk about now, just I'll tell the audience too, is, and it comes full circle when I say things like men, we don't speak well on feelings. We don't do well with grieving, anything that may label us as soft. I'll just, one of the things I always hear is like, don't worry, I'll get past it. How many times do you hear that?
All the time.
I'll get past it, right? And then, so sometimes now, like when people say that, I'm like, well, are you going to resolve it, then move on? Like, what does past it mean? And that's kind of one of the things that I'm dealing with when it comes to my daughter. So, we're a family of 5, and my daughter, Elora, she's the oldest. Ellis is the middle child, and Aaliyah is the youngest. Kind of just getting straight to it, like my oldest daughter, Elora, passed away on Thanksgiving in 2019. It was Thanksgiving night. So that night means it's a different type of holiday now, obviously.
Yeah.
And, but who doesn't like talking about their kids, right? So she obviously every day is like it's a very polarizing day where it's 50-50, right? Yeah. You're happy, sad. You see your kids and you're like, oh, great, but I wish Elora was here. That first year.
How old was she when she passed?
She was 2 years and 2 months.
Wow. 2 years and 2 months.
2 years and 2 months, yeah. And in that broken family environment, I remember we went to our first we went to the Christmas party the month later just to see family, right? And I'm glad we did because, dude, 3 months later, the world shut down. You couldn't see anybody. So I don't know what I would have done if we didn't hug anybody after our daughter died.
Right.
Like, I don't know. That scares the crap out of me. But it's polarizing. You see other kids, you see them happy at that time. Like, it was really confusing for me because from Thanksgiving on, Ellis was born on January 5th. So you had that month, 6-week gap where like all of a sudden I don't have a kid, right? So it confused me, and I don't know how to share this with anybody, but I'm like, am I still a dad? Like the obvious answer, yeah, she's always with you, this, that. I'm like, I don't want to hear that shit. Like she's not here. Like, am I a dad still? So these confusing thoughts were going, and then during Christmas time, I don't know why, but my uncle made me pray for Christmas. Like, I'm like, why are you making me do it? Like, it's really hard. So that month was really, really challenging. But there's also a victory in there. In that first month, we were showered with so much love. I remember in like the 3rd week, I was able to go to a hockey game with my friend David. And she was able to go eat K-barbecue with like her cousins. I'm like, oh shit, this is the first night we're not together. Like, are you okay? And I was okay. And it showed like, oh shit, like, okay, we're surviving like today. And so I remember that as like a big milestone. But really when I kind of fast forwarded a couple of weeks, but really when it comes down to like the daily of I don't want to compartmentalize anything that has to do with her. And I think that's why I could share today. Right. So when she passed away, I started writing about her, things I remember, things I'm learning. And I think the whole time, that first month, I remember my wife and I just kept saying like, oh, we're surviving this because this is the first time I think we felt the power of prayer. Not, you guys are all right, like I'll pray for you. Like, you guys good, like I'll pray for you. Like sometimes in the Christianese language, it's like, it's kind of cute. Like, oh, Tessa, like you're okay.
Right.
Versus, oh shit, like I used to always say, like, we're living minute by minute, hour to hour, day by day. I just want to make it to my pillow and be able to sleep. Right. And so that was kind of like what I've been saying to myself, like, oh, I just need to make it to lunch. That food's always like great, for anything, but let's just make it to dinner. Where do you want to go eat? So it kind of gave us focus.
I got a few questions. So like when, because I mean, you guys obviously are in a much better place today. And when that was for your daughter, when all that happened, was it something you guys knew was happening? Was it sudden? Like, was there some because I don't know what happened. I have zero context.
I should tell you. So Thanksgiving week, I remember we went out. It was sudden, and I'll tell you just the quick little story on Monday night. It almost feels like it was COVID, right? Because when we got the autopsy back, they're like, it's viral pneumonia, and nobody knew COVID at that time.
Right. It was 2019.
Yes, 2019, right? And so Monday, I remember like on a Monday night, it was like probably one of the best moments I ever had with her. Like, I picked her up and she caressed my cheeks and she's like, my appa, right? Like, my daddy, right? And it was like, and her language was kind of slow. So for her to say that, I'm like, oh shit, this is 30 minutes later. I'm like, you're hot. Like, dude, you have a 100+ something fever right now. Where'd this come from? And kids, it happens all the time, right? And so we're like, okay, you have a fever. We don't know where it came from. So Tuesday, we're kind of checking in and out of, going into the doctors. And then Wednesday, we went in again. Wednesday morning, Ange spent, I think, like 2 hours. Just double check. Because we're not thinking like, oh shit, she's going to die. We're like, oh, she has a fever. And kind of going through it. And then on Wednesday, she was there for 2 hours, checked the lungs, checked all this stuff. And she even had a regular temperature. That's the confusing part. So Thursday comes around and Ange starts to notice, like, I think her feet or hands are kind of blue, like a little bit, right? Let's give her a bath. Let's warm her up. Her temperature is like 96 or something like that. Like it's not alarming. And so on Thanksgiving Day, we ended up, we're at home. And so I went to Peking Gourmet and Garden Grove, made the drive. And then coming back, I just remember how stormy it was and how rainy it was that day. Driving back, stopped off at a friend's place. And so it was about 5 or 6 o'clock. Went home and just kind of doing some research on like, hey, I think Chalk closes at 7. And like, it's a holiday too. So you're kind of like, shit, should we go now or not? And I think this is a little bit before 7. You know, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's just go.
Yeah.
And so she's by the door. I just literally sat her down, and then literally put my shoe on, and like literally 2 seconds later, she's already laying down. I didn't even see it happen, and she's awake. And so I'm like, oh shit, let's go. And so I live in Quail Hill, and there's a Hogue that's, I think it's literally like 2 miles, 2 miles from.
Yeah.
Let's go there. Let's see how she's doing. If not, if she's okay and alert, we'll just keep going to Chalk, which is like 20 minutes away, and I think Santa Ana. Literally 2 minutes into the drive, she was done. She was my wife was screaming in the back, trying to do CPR, and we haven't even made it to Hogue yet. I've made it to the block out, and she was already gone. So it happened just like that. So there wasn't like a warning sign, or like, you know, kids go through cancer battles, you know, months long, like just literally like a blink of an eye. She was gone. So about 7:45, I think we're in the ER for like 45, 50 minutes. And, but all of that, like, I still remember vividly. None of it was out of body, or I remember every minute of that whole trek. Yeah. And when I think about that day, there's always something I go back and I replay or refer back to, because there's some learning experience that I don't know why God gave me that, again, like that survival mentality, right? I like talking about my childhood because a lot of survival techniques and abilities were gained from like how I was raised. I wish I had more hustle in me to like make bank, but like that just my time went to like survival and just learning how to be resourceful and stuff. So when I think about my survival now, this is kind of where I can get into, you know, quite a bit. But that night, there were a few things that I always check back to. One, the head doctor, Dr. Michael Chu, I think. I remember him coming, and about 20 minutes into it, just tears. I'm like, why is he crying though? Like, I remember I noticed, I'm like, why is he crying? Because I'm also kind of in shock too, right? Like, why is he crying? And he's like, dude, I have a 2-year-old. And he's the one that's the head of like everything going on. There's 20 plus people in this ER room. Everyone has their own little thing that they're focused on. And I remember saying Alora, and, you know, just her feet are like pointed at me and her socks kind of half off. And they're going at her. And it's like, you're gentle at some point because it's a kid, but like you can tell they were violently like trying to revive her and stuff. So it's like sometimes like I couldn't look because I'm like, because you feel like she's feeling something, or like she's in pain. So about 20 minutes in, he's like apologizing. He's like, I'm still gonna go. I'm like, if you really want to go and you think you can, then keep going.
Yeah.
But I told him, like, I believe you. I don't think you're trying to cut any corner. Like, I believe you. Like, thank you. Keep going. He's like, okay, I'll keep going.
Yeah.
And so about 45 minutes pass. During this time, mind you, I think I may have told you this before. The worst part of that night was the chaplain inside the ER. Because once the trauma starts happening inside, they have protocols that they have to do. And so this knob comes next to me. I'm just that's the part I get really angry about. My daughter died that night, and like, this is the part I'm actually angry on. Like, this junior pastor comes, he's like rubbing my leg, and he's like, God is with you. I'm like, don't fucking touch me. He's rubbing my back. I'm like, get your hands off of me.
Yeah.
But at this point, like, there was a good excuse to get up away from him. And I get up in the room, and they're like, you need to call like your loved ones. This was probably the worst too. It's like, I had to call my father. This is Thanksgiving night. Everyone's partying.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
So call my dad. I don't even know how the Korean came out, but I'm like, Laura 돌아가셨어, like she died. And he's like, what? And everyone's just in shock. I'm like, Dad, that's it. Like, I'm at the hospital. She's passed away, she's gone. So I had to do that with, I think, like 4 or 5 different people. My in-laws, like it just kind of went. And then, so after we just said, there's really nothing that we can do. I laid with her for about an hour, 2 hours. I don't even know how long that part went, but like both sides of the family came.
Yeah.
And like, I remember that vividly because I just remember everyone's face, like right when they enter the room. It's like, you just see how broken everybody was. And so that really was that night with the doctors that I remember. The survival part, when I always tap into something, I may have mentioned this to you before, but I don't know why I said to God, I get it. Like, I get it. Not in the context of Elora is Jesus, but in the context of your son died for me. Like, this is what that pain, like, I can't imagine what that pain feels like, right?
That's crazy.
So I remember that twice. I never unpacked that though, until I have so many stories, but in that survival moment, you fast forward about 2 years, there's this anger of like, still why? Or I feel kind of alone in this because everybody else is having fun. Why is my kid gone?
Yeah.
Right. And I remember driving down to San Diego for work, and that's when it clicked. I'm like, oh shit, you did this for everybody, right? Like, your son died for me. Elora didn't die for you, didn't die for you. Like, she's just our daughter, but you actually did that for me. And so I think one of the key things for me is when she passed away and my trauma's kicking in, like my gut instinct said, okay, I really believe in God now. Not,
wow.
It could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, f you. Like, that anger can, like, whatever. And there was a point at the beginning when I'm like, you want to kill yourself because your daughter or you lost your kid? Good for you. Like, I can't imagine what that pain is. Like, I don't judge you at all. Right? Yeah. Like, there's none of that. And so when that finally clicked for me, that was about she's been gone for about 3.5 years now, but about 2.5 years into it, that finally clicked in my head. I'm like, that means more to me than anything now. It's like, okay, I believe Elora is with you to the next level now, right? And I think that's really what's keeping me alive. And that's when it really became clear during Easter. That's about the time that we talked about this, right? It's like, I asked people, because this was kind of hot with me, what's the number one recited verse in the Bible publicly, like, to anybody, right? It remind me of like Tim Tebow, like 3:16, like John 3:16, right? But no one ever focuses on, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Everyone just thinks, for God so loved the world, this is an amazing Bible verse that he loves me. But they forget the son part. And that hit home with me of like, okay, you did that for me. Like, why am I angry at you? Right? Like, because I believe in that now. It's not like a trigger, or it's not like some comfort or psychological thing of, hey, go down this path and really believe in this. No, I believe in God to that higher dimension now. So then that anger kind of kicked in, like, man, like, I'm tired of Easter bunnies. I'm tired of eggs. I'm tired of like all this, like, you're replacing God on Easter for his son with like eggs. I get it with the kids. Easter hunt, I totally get it. It's cute. But as a society, just when I see billboards of Easter, I'm like, man, stop it. I get so angry. And I also think of Thanksgiving too. It's like, okay, you died on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's not a pretty holiday when you really think about it.
No.
And we replaced it with turkey. Like, so that's kind of one of the hottest, kind of latest things that I think Elora has really been teaching me. But there's been a lot of like, I like how you always say, like, how's another God meal or like a God moment, right? There's been so many God moments that I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be alive and I need to share about Elora And
like, I got a question, because I'm a husband and a father, and my kids are 4 and 7 now, and 2 boys, and I mean, I can't even imagine what the pain would be if I were to lose any of them. Right? And I guess one of the things that like I start thinking right away as I'm listening to just everything that just happened, like as you know, thank God that, you know, there's so much connection to the Lord through this process. I mean, seriously, thank the Lord for that, which is crazy. Because that's definitely a God thing. That's not like a human thing. You know, that's a God thing, right? Yeah. And so the other thing I think about is while you were going through this, like what was going on with like your wife, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, is she also having these revelations and this connection with God and some not only peace but understanding, or is she having a totally different experience?
Yeah. It's a really good question. First of all, it's interesting when she passed away, it brought to light like why I'm married to her. Right. And she did talk about another podcast of like how she was raised, survival to the next level. So she can be goofy. She laughs a ton. She has like a childlike personality too. She's creative. She envisions a lot of things. But when it gets serious though, like it's next level survival, spiritual warfare. Like, let's go. Right. And so I'm very thankful to have her because she's very black and white too. Right. Where it's matter of fact, it is what it is. And she's very clear in her mind still. Right. That first night, I remember looking at Albert and Alice, her cousins. I'm like, you got her? Because I don't know if I'm going to survive this. Like, you guys got to cover her, because my immediate thought was, she might kill herself. I don't know. And she's pregnant too, right? I don't know what's going to happen at this time. And it was not that. Like, grounded, spiritual. It cries like hell. Like, that's totally fine. But like, when you think about how we went day by day, she was like, I don't know what else to say, but like amazing. Like, didn't impede on my grieving. I'm learning from her that she's grieving differently. Like, she's showing pictures of Alora and we're like laughing, and I'm like in the corner just fucking bawling, right? But it's like, you go do you and I'll go do me. And then sometimes it'll switch off, right? And so we're kind of learning on the fly of like what to do, what not to do, but not step on each other, because you can feel totally differently. Complete opposite, right? And so a couple of things happened that I was very thankful for, that dude, when your ship's going and you throw that anchor, you hope it casts onto something tough like God, not something else, right? And so we're getting these like confirmations, like, dude, this is God. He's sovereign. Everyone's saying he's a sovereign God, but okay, that's, again, those are cute Christian words. What does that really mean, right? There were a couple stories that really connected, and I'm so thankful that happened early, right? One of the stories, it really released me. I don't know if it was the following Tuesday or like 2 weeks later on the Tuesday, but she's got a small group for her parents. And this is what I call like the church. Like, it's like 15 people. They meet at Angela's dad's, apartment constantly. The prayers are next level. Wow. They're just doing it, right? It reminds me of here, right? Like they're just doing it.
Yeah.
And Catherine leads the group, and her mom's also a pastor. She's in Korea. And she's got some gifts too. And you can tell like their spiritual gifts when they're like, they don't want them. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, why'd you hate this guy?
Yeah, we can talk about that, man. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. And Catherine calls, and this is like early in the morning. I'm sitting there at the table. I'm like, dude, what is she talking about? What is she talking about? And so Catherine's saying, like, a week prior to Laura passing away, every time Catherine's mom would pray, she's like, the Holy Spirit's making me cry. Like, I feel very heavy. And she's just bawling. So every day is everyone okay? Is everyone okay? Again, for 5 days straight, leading up to it, it was almost like something's gonna happen.
Whoa.
Right? And so finally she told her mom, like, Laura passed away. And then she stopped crying. Like, that was it, right? So for me to hear that, I'm like, that's not someone saying something from church to make me feel better. Like, this is real time of like stuff happening with God, right? I'm like, so I remember Ange that morning when I heard that, the guilt from me just was like, it wasn't us. Like, God's in control. Like, just that feeling of like, this is real and not some pastor trying to blow something over to me. It's like, oh, that's real, right? So that released. And the funny thing is that morning, it's funny I bring that up. It brings back some of the other things too. Kids also grieve. I really learned that, right? That morning, two things happened where a friend's daughter, like, he kind of like, I passed by the bathroom after she showered and like she wrote Alora's name on the mirror from like, all the milk, the dew and all that stuff. And then there's like another special kid who, again, it's one of those things where like you have these spiritual gifts. So not only is it good, but it's also bad, right? So he also sees bad spirits, but then he got Alora's vision a couple times that week of like where she is, where she's sitting and like in his room and stuff like that. I'm like, wow. And so to me, I get mad at Alora, like check in with them more, like protect them. Like that's your boy, right? Because he also sees bad spirits too, right? So you see these things kind of going on. I'm like, okay, ultimately, I'm very happy that those things happened in the first week of just saying, okay, God, you're real.
Yeah.
And that I think that helped my gut reaction to buy in. Okay, I know where you're at now. Like, I lose you physically, but I know where you're at. I'll see you again, right? And that helped me out. And I think that helped Angela out too. She could speak for herself on this, but I remember that happening with her. And she went about her day, believe it or not. She's like, this makes me want to be a better teacher to my kids. She's a teacher. She's a preschool teacher, right?
Yeah.
She went back to work the second week. She's like, I want to be with my kids.
Wow.
I'm like, you okay to go teach?
Wow.
And she was okay, but I think it wasn't official, but at the end of that second week, I think she got COVID. She's like, dude, I can't, and we don't know. This is still in 2019, not shut down. She's like, dude, I feel tight in my chest and I gotta go, I have a headache. So she missed like the last 2 days, but I'm like, you're fucking next level, dude. You went to teach like less than 2 weeks after, and she was totally fine if she didn't get sick. So when everything hits the fan for her, like that survival kicks in, it's like, it goes to the next level, right? And so kind of wrapping up like that first month of you asked like, what is she like? The eulogy always comes up, right? Her eulogy was so amazing that I had to make sure like mine was good. It was
y'all competing with each other, bro.
In my head, I'm like,
come
where is
on.
this? Well, because you asked the question, like, how is she, right? But to me, I'm like, where is this coming from too? This is the eulogy and new song, right?
Wow.
And I remember constantly hearing after that, like, dude, I just always, thought your wife is not negative, but like goofy and like she's funny and all this stuff. But like she changed people that day.
Wow.
So she even used like that moment to give God praise, give God glory. Amen. And I think the one line that really became clear to me that hit a lot of people was like, does it bother you when people just say, it bothers me now, right? Because of this, but when people are like, God bless you. Hey, God bless you. Like, what does that really mean? Does that mean, I hope you have a lot of success. I hope you get a lot of money.
Sure.
I hope you have a great life, right? And as she's going through this, really the definition of like, God bless you is anything that brings you closer to God.
Whoa.
She said that at the pulpit, right? I'm like,
amen.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So you're using the death of your daughter as a way to say like, God bless me, right? To me, like that's the part I get emotional. I'm like, how did you do that at that moment?
Yeah.
And that stays with me like forever. So when someone says, God bless you, I'm like, what do you really mean by that?
Yeah.
Are you just, God, I hope you get rich and like famous, or like not like, hope you have a big house. I hope you have a nice car. I hope you get your Porsche. Like all that. Like, it's like, what does that really mean? Like, God bless you. Right. So when you say that to someone, like when I do it, it's like, I don't even say it anymore. Because sometimes it could be good or bad.
Right, that could be a burden. Like I'm wishing a burden on you.
Like, that's kind of the way she taught me at that moment. So that moment when she's standing up there, like I'll never forget that moment. I'm like, damn, what am I saying? Like I hope I'm okay, right? So
I mean, I definitely got to pause on that. That is so powerful, bro.
Yeah.
Just that reminder and notion of like what that really means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you pray for certain people, you're right. If you're praying for them to get closer to God, to live a godlike life, to be a godlike man or whatever, that you're praying a lot on them.
Yeah.
Well, good, bad, ugly, all of it, man.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we draw closer to God in our brokenness when we realize how broken we are.
Amen.
Like we don't, and that's why. Yeah, as you're talking about this, it's funny, even before we started rolling, like I think Josh said something about like, too blessed to be stressed or something like that. But I'm like, but I was like, but I was also saying like, but stress is blessed.
Yeah,
like when we're stressed,
go, man. That's the shirt now.
That draws us to God. When we're stressed, when we are burdened,
that's
when like, God, I need some help. Like, help me. This is too hard. You know what I'm saying? And of course, the degrees and the levels and the extremities, the spectrum of that stress can be, from death to just like, I don't know if I'm going to make rent this month. You know what I'm saying? Like but that's not to minimize or maximize anybody's, but and that's why God continues to give us burden, because that is what he knows. It's what's going to keep us drawing closer to him. Because the moment everything's cool, we're like, cool, everything's chilling.
Yeah.
One thing I want to bring back too that Shane said earlier, because I know we went by pretty quick, because that was a lot, which is great. Thank you for just.
You kickstarted me. I didn't stop.
No, it was good. Exactly. Yeah. We that's how we are. We just let things go the way it goes. And as you went through that, it was just I didn't even touch my food. I couldn't. I stopped eating. Honestly speaking, I was like going, and then like the moment you started, I was like, dude, I need to put this down, because I needed to hear everything. I didn't want to skip a beat on it, because there was so much in there that I really want the audience to like pause and reflect a bit for whoever's going through whatever, right? Because there's something also there that was so powerful that you shared. Because when he first told me your story, just a little bit of it, saying, he's gonna definitely come on the pod and we're gonna have this conversation. I was like, man, I'm a dad with 2 little kids, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna get teared. I'm gonna cry at the part where he talks about the death of his daughter, right? But today, as I was sitting here listening, the part that like almost just actually took me out with Waterworks wasn't even that. It was when you just shared about, I didn't even catch which relative it was that prayed and told you days before, I felt something is coming. The moment you said that almost took me out. And the reason why is not because like it was like a curse or whatever on your family. No, like you said, sometimes it's good or bad, these gifts that you have with God. And that like confirmed that was the Lord.
Wow.
That was
And like
100%.
It hit me. Because like for me, like, God is just, you know what I mean? Like he does whatever in all different ways to communicate with us. And the moment I heard that, the affirmation as a parent in that situation, just imagining what you guys were going through, to hear that, that would have just took me out. For that almost takes me out, just me talking about it right now.
No,
like it's heavy on my heart.
And like, I mean, even just hearing you unpack that too, that sort of, her just weeping days in advance, and you're saying that was the Lord, like that's like God is mourning what he knows what already is about to happen, and he's mourning. It's not like I did this like you know, it's good with me. You know what I mean? I'm the one who did it, right? Like I'm cool with it, you know.
Wow.
But like God was mourning what He knew what was about to happen, and He was just like showing that to you, like I mourn with you.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm
lost.
I'm thinking about you guys.
Yeah.
Like that was
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I you know, because you know, I don't know any part of the story, but things like that for the people around you and the journey that you had with God, even leading up to that moment.
Yeah.
You know, your wife, the family members that all love the Lord, this generation of this generational love of God.
Yeah.
This is something that I also love witnessing as someone that comes from a broken home. You know, my parents are divorced, but my family comes from generation of no God. There's not a lot of God in our lives. My mom was probably the first one. So sometimes, you know, people will hear my story of my boys and go, oh man, you're breaking the generational curse for your family.
Wow.
But if I really think about it, it isn't me, it's my mom.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep.
When my mom decided, I'm going to take up the cross, I'm going to go learn who Jesus is, stepped in that church and prayed for me every morning, she broke the generational curse.
Amen.
Yeah.
And that bled to me, and then that got onto my kids, hopefully, and then on. And so just seeing that, man, your family loves you, bro. I mean, that is, I don't even know them. And I'm like, I could see how much they love you.
That's,
you know what I mean? These people love you. You
That's
know?
wow. Catherine, that's Angela's parents' pastor.
Wow.
And her mom, total God story. I have to share this one. When Alora was a little bit before 1, right? And I'm going through, my wife she just lost her job, right? And so we're going through like Alora's first year, like just with my income, right? And I'm like, I do okay, but it's like just stressful. Like the game has changed with like where your money goes, and it's like in a heartbeat. Like what the fuck? I'm stressing out, right? And we're driving down, and we're down in like Mission Viejo somewhere, and she's like, I think maybe. I'm like, what are you talking about? Maybe. I'm like, might have I don't know. Like I'm late, and I freaking just freaked out, completely freaked, almost like blaming her. Like how could you be late, right? Not my pride, like my best moment in life. Not my best moment in life. It was so bad. That's how irrational. Like
how dare you conceive my child?
Right.
Yeah.
We pulled over, and Alora, like we had to change her diaper and stuff, and Angela's in tears. I'm just like, I am so sorry. Like I need to chill. Like I'm feeling emotional, like stressed, and all this stuff too. And so that was kind of that moment. And then you fast forward about 6 months later. Angela's second mom, really, there's another story in there too, but her second mom got pancreatic cancer. So Catherine's mom flew from Korea to here just to pray on the group. And so I wasn't there. Usually Sunday nights I'm at home, and Angela takes Alora and goes to small group, that Bible study group. And she's praying on the group, and that night, after all the prayer sessions and stuff, she's like, you need to have a second. She's talking to Angela. You need to have a second baby. And Angela's like, why? And she's like, your money doesn't raise your kids. I raise your kids.
Wow.
So like at the end, I'm like, whoa, that was like literally a direct message from Korea, from God to tell me like, chill out. Like it's not your money. Like, I raise your kids, right? And like, in some ways, it's interesting that when Alora left and to go be with the Lord, I'm like, oh, He really is in control. Like, my money didn't matter if I had 10 bill in the bank. Didn't do anything, right? And so, that's how special that Catherine and her mom are to like our family, right?
Yeah.
Just to make sure, like, oh no, he's real. Just know.
Incredible.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I remember you were sharing with me. Because you shared this story with me over lunch that time that we had, but at Alora's funeral, you said that that Ryan Ellis came through and he played at the funeral, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what that meant to you and why that was so impactful to you?
Yeah, that was an eye-opener for me, because I remember I didn't know Ryan personally. And I just knew him because I go to New Song, and he's an amazing singer. And so I remember this was probably in about October. He sang a Maverick song that just stayed with me. And it's been like my anthem since like day one of Laura leaving, which just says keeps on getting better. You keep on getting better. And I remember when Ryan was singing that song, I'm sitting there in the first row and Dave Gibbons whispers in my ear and he's like, you know, he's about to lose his son too, right? And I froze, I paused, I almost like kind of fainted. Like I was in shock when he told me that. I'm like, how is he doing that for me? And I'll never forget that. And I got to know Ryan a little bit after, and I think Cassie and my wife talked too. And it did a lot for me on multiple fronts of just saying like, okay, you're not alone. You're not the only one who's lost a kid. Because it makes you feel really, really lonely. It makes you feel isolated and like you get so angry at just anybody, right? I remember I was walking at the coffee shop and the girl walked by me on the phone. She was smiling, but literally in my head, I'm like, the f*** are you smiling about? Like, it makes you so angry, right?
Yeah,
and so like, I remember when he sang, it just made me feel like, okay, I'm not the only one. And if you guys ever get a chance to listen to his song, he wrote that song. He didn't, to me, it wasn't like a big promoted song, but two places at one time. There's a part in there that every single time it freaking breaks me down. And it's so true. But his words, his music, his sound, his cadence, everything about his singing, like really at that time was like, it was so helpful. It was so helpful to just listen to it. And I'll never forget taking Ellis to school, preschool, and he's like, that's music. Like he whispered that like in the back seat, like he really liked that song. And yeah, so that means a lot. He means a lot to me. His music means a lot to me. That song means a lot to me. And it just makes me feel like, dude, we're not the only ones. And selfishly, like you want to think you're the only one, but dude, come on, dude, there's so many people around me that have lost their kids. You know? Yeah. And so for us, again, it goes back to God, right? Like you did that to start everything, right? And so that shift in perspective is really hard to gain when like you're comfortable, right? We talked about the comfortable feeling, like just to see outside your little. I remember on Mother's Day this past year, this is not a long story, but just that perspective change where I remember she was talking about, man, imagine Mary's perspective as a mom, knowing that like my son's gonna die.
Wow, yeah.
As a mom, right? I'm like, I looked at Ange, I'm like, I never thought about it. And she's like, right?
Right.
So just even words in the Bible, we kind of talked about this, where words have just forever changed with me. Like, God bless you.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's totally changed. So
Careful, y'all.
just be very, very careful when you say things.
You know, I think
just
like just even hearing how you think so carefully and just look at words through a different lens. Words are powerful, right? And these powerful words that we use so like flippantly lose their power because it becomes such this like when someone sneezes, oh God bless you, like you know what I mean? Like it's just almost just a response that we give to just things, and we don't think twice about what those things mean. And what a gift that is too, that God has given you this ability to see the power behind words. And so for you, I can imagine when you say things to people, you have a very like a clear intention as to why you're saying what you just said, because you know what it means to you. Maybe they might not take it that way, but for you, it's like, I'm not gonna just throw words away. And even words in the Bible, like, I mean, even for me, dude, like as of late, you know, when I read the Bible now, there are words that pop out at me that have never popped out before. I'm like, how did I never see that? How did I never knew that that's what that meant? You know what I mean? And that's also just the Holy Spirit, how he gives us the ability to even understand words. it's not that we just became smarter overnight and things just make more sense to us. It's just when God decides he wants to reveal some truths to you, he will make it loud and clear.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Total different perspective.
Yeah.
Then when you say the verses too, I remember growing up, this came back to me again, right? When I think about the childhood, I think it's Philippians 1:21. To live is Christ, to die is to gain, right? Mm-hmm. I'll never forget that verse, like growing up, and I'm like, man, Alora, like you experienced that, right?
Wow.
So when I think about that day one of like death to light, like we fear that in some way. Like we can talk the talk of like, it's okay. Like when I go, we're gonna get to go see Jesus, right? But you don't know how it's gonna happen. So there's some innate fear, or how or when, you don't know. And obviously with her leaving time-wise, like the definition of time is so effed with me. So when I think about, I'm like, man, you're the brave one, dude. You're the next level one where like you already did everything that God wanted you to do, and you already crossed that line, and you're with him. Like to live is Christ, to die is to gain. Like you gained before I did. So when I think about things now, it's like when we get to teach our kids, the crazy thing for me to accept is like, my child is teaching me to teach my kids. That makes no sense to me, but it makes like total perfect sense now. And it's a really, really weird feeling.
Wow.
But it's amazing though.
Like what you just said right now, just kind of like, it kind of just like hits me with this, you said that God already said Alora's purpose was finished. Like, cool, you did all I needed you to do. Now I need you home. Because that story now becomes the story that you tell that is going to impact people forever. Like you said that at her funeral, people's lives were changed by your wife's eulogy. Like that was the story that people needed to hear for their lives to be changed. You know what I'm saying? If God's purpose for Alora to be born was for that story to be your guys' story that you guys tell for the rest of your lives, for people's lives to be changed, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah, and that's the part where I feel like even just when you text me like, hey, talking about your daughter or other people, like it's total fair, like respectable, and like it's very safe when people ask me. But at the same time, I feel, okay, God, you're making all of these things clear. If I don't share these things, then like I don't want you to be upset. I don't want the Lord to be upset at me. I don't want you to be upset. Like you gave me this story, and I have to share it, and I want to share it. And that strength is something that I'm building up to be able to be okay to talk literally from start to finish about anything in between. And again, I think that goes back to that survival gene that he gave me of like, no, you'll be okay. You can talk about this. You can go through this stuff. And so that's like, it's a different perspective. It's a different way of living, especially when it starts with like your kid. And then the story goes through you, because we should be talking freely without trauma or any of. I'm learning from my daughter. It's a really, really strange thing. But it's like, it's really powerful. Like when I can get a grasp of it, because when you deep dive in that silence and you're like, that silence is loud, dude. Like you're just in your head and there's all warfare going on. Do this, do that.
Thoughts are evil, dude.
Like, it's just really, it's crazy. Right. But like one of the recent things that came about was, especially being a dad, right? When we think about what our parents have done for us, they indirectly and directly have given us a path to be a parent. Like we learn from them, no matter if it's good or bad, right? And our kids, they don't have any choices except what we give them, right? They're gonna learn from you. Hey, eat, poop, don't do this, do that, share, don't share, whatever you want. Like we're showing them these things, but like whatever is in our control, you think about our trauma of what we've been through, the emotions we've been through, then we take it out on them. One of the things that Alora has taught me is like, dude, it's not like Ella said, when I come in the world, God, I don't want my parents grieving. I don't want my parents to be pissed off and sad and crying. Like he didn't have that choice. So then when I'm being a parent to him, she's keeping me accountable. Like, treat my brother better. Don't take my sadness and me being with God out on them. So being able to separate that trauma of like, no, that's my deal, but let me try and be a good dad to Ellis and Aaliyah now. Like, that's the hard part, like every day, especially when they're like poking at you all the time. And you just want to be like, stop, leave me alone. I need quiet. I need to just leave me alone. Go in your room, versus spend time with them, play with them, read books. When I'm tired as F and they want to read another book, read them another. That's so hard for me, right? But that trauma of like not wanting to do things because you're going through so much stuff, like that responsibility is really, really, really hard, especially when you want to just be with her, right? So there's a lot in that whole category of like just her being with God and like teaching me. It's crazy.
Well, for the sake of time too, you know, every episode this podcast called Good Service, and obviously we're frequenting these amazing food establishments that provide good food and good service and good experiences, but also everybody has a service that they provide to the worlds that they kind of run in, and for you, how would you define what good service means to you? Like, what is your good service to the spaces that you're in?
In the spaces that I'm in, so like in work,
wherever, however you want to define that, whether it's work, whether it's your friend groups, church, whatever it is.
Well, that can go on for a while too. I think immediately my gut reaction of like what comes up is, I don't think we're like, especially from our situation now, like I wasn't really given a platform or a playbook, actually is probably a better word, of like how to grieve or men to develop in this space, right? You got feelings, like let's talk. And it's not I will help you. Like if people literally just wanted to hit me up and they just wanted to vent as a man, and like, this is what I'm struggling with my kids. This is what I'm struggling with my parents. I lost a child. I lost my dad. I lost my uncle. I just don't think this space is well served. It's probably a difficult one to do. But like, when I really think about one of the best things for me in the past couple of years is like just being able to sit and being able to do this, being able to just talk without feeling like I want to be judged, or talk about sadness without me feeling like I'm just a sad story. Like, that's not it either, right? There's a lot of good that comes from us just talking. And I think so. If there's, dude, no judgment, no background, whoever you are, like if someone ever just been like, I don't have anybody to talk to, like hit me up, like something like that, right? That's the way I would love to serve. And then also, like we've done this, I think for 7 years now. Like it's like what you're doing here every Tuesday. We open up our home for a small group. If you want to come by for a free meal every Tuesday. That small group has like saved our lives too after Laura passed. They saw Laura more than anybody because every week they played with her for 2 years. So serving people, I would love to just listen to people. That's probably something I would love to do, whether it's on IG, phone, text, send me a video. You want me to respond back? You just want me to listen, just say I listened. I just want people to know, especially after COVID, there's a lot of people dying. There's a lot of people sick, a lot of people going through stuff. And you gotta let it out. There's a lot of crazies out there now, fighting, don't know what to do with emotions, and men especially. So that's probably the first thing that really comes up. And the other time, if nothing to agree, if you want to talk sports, call me.
So with that, we just plastered his number all over the Look below. This is his phone number, 1-888.
Laker Shane. You can find him on Instagram. His DMs are open.
DMs are open. Dope.
Yeah, nah, dude. Shane, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that story.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard it already, and it's still, man, it's so powerful, and like it's such a testament to literally the power of God. Like it's only like seriously. You can only do it by the power of God. To even talk about it, it was so. I mean, like not a long time ago that like just happened, and to see how like God is already redeeming that story and showing you probably on the daily, like why and what's this for and what is he's not done with this story yet. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Amen. It's a work in progress, and just seeing your willingness to just say, yes, God, all right, this is like a hurtful thing, but I know you want to use it, and you just being obedient to that calling. I think that's like, man, praise God. Like that. Us here, I mean, Kev, you can speak for yourself, but I'm just so blessed. I'm just like, wow. It's stories like this that make me just feel like, man, God, you are crazy. But like, it makes me just want to like draw in more. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, he's real. Like so real. John 3:16 is real. You know what I mean? It's not just some nice Bible verse on the bottom of an In-N-Out French fry thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's real, man. Yeah. It's real.
For real.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, folks, thank you for watching or listening. If you are finding this episode as a solo episode, we have many more that came before this. So make sure you subscribe and like. And if you're really digging what we're doing, leave us that 5-star rating, write us a review, follow us on our socials at Good Service Podcast. Maybe we don't even have socials yet, so we'll figure out what we name it, and then
we'll edit the crap out of that part.
Yeah, or not. It'll be in the description though. If you're already following it, thank you. That's it, man. We'll catch you guys on the next one.